Well, welcome everybody. I am going to switch. Is that better? Can I hear myself better? There we go. I am excited about today. This is my favorite portion, Rebecca.
Is it? Okay, good.
And I always say that. So it's my favorite. It's my favorite. Okay, so I have hello for everyone. Anyone listening that they can't see us, so you can't see our names. I'm Charlie Brown, and I have my friend Miss Rebecca Cruz is with us. And today we're going to be chatting with you about Chukat, the Parsha. Today we're going to jump into Numbers. We'll be starting in Numbers 19:1. But before that, just a couple announcements. The homeschooling conference has started. Yay! Not started. Registration is open. So I'm going to share my screen because I can. I'm going to share my screen because I want you guys to see how you can find out all the things. So if you go to The Rooted Cafe, K-A-F-E, I say that all the time, K-A-F-E, The Rooted Cafe. And then I think if you spell it wrong, I did have it set up that it forwards, but we'll see. And then if you up here, up at the top, if you can see, if you hit events, you click events, and then you can see Homeschool Summit, register here. You click right there and you register, okay? Tell your friends, it's free. Tell everyone. If you can't make it live with us on July 31st for that period of time, then we do have the videos available. And if you register, there's a process as you go through. It'll tell you we want videos, or you can email us and say, I want the videos, and we'll send you the link to get those. There's a small fee that helps us cover just the process of putting that all together. But then you can just watch it with your friends, have your own homeschool summit at your house, and you could show it to maybe your homeschool. If you guys have like a co-op, that would be a fun thing to show to your homeschool co-op. We have such great things. Okay, a couple other things I want to show you is when you sign on to our website, you can click on the portion. And when you click on the portion, what happens? It spins. Oh, what happens is today I've had too much caffeine. Okay. I normally don't drink coffee in the morning, and I've had coffee and I'm on my first matcha. So it could be crazy. Rebecca, watch out. All right. Internet is challenged today. All right. So what you'll get is this, and then normally it's really fast, and you'll pop up and it says the portion free. You can click on this. It's free. I'm going to show you what that looks like in just a second, but you can jump on there, and most of you already have this. If you're watching by Facebook, you already have this and you don't even know it. All you have to use is the same email you gave us when you joined this group on Facebook. And then you can just say, I forgot my password. And that way it'll reset that for you. The second thing as you scroll down is that you can listen this week, where you can see we have someone every single week reading this to you. So you could click this and it sounds like, will it start?
Hey, I'm Leanne Moorhead, and I'm reading the
Can you hear
Parsha
it?
today. It is Parsha Chukat,
Leanne Moorhead.
and I'm reading out of the Tree of Life version.
You hear it? So exciting.
Numbers 19. Adonai spoke to Moses and
see, and we have women just every week. There's a new person. It's super exciting. And if you want to listen to the past recordings, you can click here. But I like to listen. You know, we have to be hearers of the word, right? So I love listening to someone reading it to me. There's a lot of places that you can do that, but I love that it's someone I might know, or one of my sisters reading it to me. That's super fun. And then, yeah, also you can listen by podcast. This tells you how to do it and tells you how we got started. So that's that. So then let's go back to just the plain old Rooted Cafe page. If you sign on, just go to the Rooted Cafe. We have so many amazing blogs that you can go to. You can go to the donate if you're like, hey, I'd love to give and help you guys bring these conferences free to women all over the world, help you share Torah every week. Click there, and every little tiny thing counts. It helps us so much. So thank you for all of you faithful. I can't tell you how much you mean to me. Like, can't tell you what and I'm praying right now, Father, just give them 100-fold return. The Sister Finder, this is huge, y'all. If you go on a Sister Finder, you click on here, you put your name, your city, your state, your email. Okay. Now here's the thing. Do you see this map? You can say, I'm going to look at, watch your eyes. Okay. So, I'm going to do you, Rebecca. We're going to go to, where are you at?
Jersey.
We're looking. We're in Jersey. Oh, whoa. All right. Where's Jersey?
Right.
What's right there? You see you?
Yep.
So what you can do is you can go in, and right now, all our Jersey girls, it looks like nobody has put their name and stuff in there. So we don't have any pins, but you can look and see who's on here. So anyone up in New York, you could just click on the pin you see, Oh, Rebecca, you're showing up way up at the top close to New York. So
Yeah.
you're up in northern New Jersey. That's why. So you can see, like, you can say, oh, look, there's Rebecca, and look, there's her email. And you can email her and say, hi, Rebecca, I live close to you. Can we get together and whatever? And Rebecca can click on this person and says, oh, Gladys Arnejo, you are close to me, and send her a little email and say, Gladys, you're close. Y'all see that? Let's pick another. Let's pick.
I'm actually supposed to be getting together with Gladys soon.
That's exciting. Do you guys see how fun that is? If you're saying, oh, nobody's near me, I live in Northwest Arkansas. So here's me. I live up here. So I would kind of zoom in. I'm going to hurt myself. And I can see, look at all these women that might live near me. So I could just click on the little pin and I can say, hi, send Dorothy an email, send all these people around me. Maybe we all meet halfway. We have a little get together. You guys jump in there, use the sister finder to add yourself so that we can, if you're wanting community, because that's one of the biggest things is the ladies tell us is that I'm lonely. I don't have anyone who, especially as you start, sometimes some of you may have lost friends. You may have, you're needing community. And as much as I build out a virtual membership and a virtual way for all of us to meet together here, I am a huge proponent of you getting together in person. So please go in there and add yourself to the map and then go find sisters near you. Okay, here's the next thing I want you to do. Then you click login. You can hit member login or regular login. It does not matter. You click login. And if you are, just use the email that you gave us here on Facebook, and you log in and you put your email, and then you put and if you don't remember your password, you click forgot your password. You probably don't know your password if you've never done this before. So you can say, I don't know it. And this is what it's going to look like. You're going to pop in and you're going to see this on your screen. Now you can download an app called Kajabi, Kajabi. This sounds confusing. I didn't want to go this far into this, but you can download a Kajabi app on your phone. And that way you can do all this on your phone. And then when Kajabi opens up, you just put your same email in and password. And this is still going to look the same, but it's going to be on your phone. Unless you do this on your phone. So this is what comes up. What is this? These are all of the videos that we have. If you click on this, this is all of the portion videos that you can watch them. You can watch past ones. You can watch, today's. If you miss it, you can go in there and watch it or listen to it. Okay. So there's that part, what you get. Also, how to study the Bible, which is amazing. When you click on that, you're going to see we have a few short lessons. Gail Heaton does such an amazing job teaching that. Tells you a Hebraic perspective of study. Why do you study from that way? And then many of you ask, how is it that, a lot of you are like, how did you get that from there? A lot of it is a lot of resources. I know, Rebecca, you're the same. We have books all around us. Plus we have certain resources online, but we have this, and this is probably one of our number one resources is the Blue Letter Bible. And you guys get this for free. It's a self-paced course. Just go in there and it's only 2 videos. And Brenda and I take you through how to use the Blue Letter Bible. And from a Hebraic perspective, some of you might think, oh, I already know how to use that. But I have had people come back to me and they're like, all right, I'm embarrassed to tell you, but I was that person who thought, I had one of our members' husbands go in there and take the course. And he's like, I graduated from seminary. I know how to, he knew how to, and then he was like, sent me a message, Charlie, that was so amazing and quick and easy. I didn't know how to use the Blue Letter Bible that way. And so I encourage you to go in. You all, and if you're under the sound of my voice, if you have access to this, it is free. If you try to sign in with an email and it doesn't work, just go to that portion and say, sign up for the free portion membership, and all that comes up. You're not having to pay any money, anything. Did I make that clear, Rebecca?
I think it was very clear.
Stop talking.
No, it was good. Good.
You're too clear. Stop. How are you doing?
Good.
How's your week?
Really good. Really
awesome. Good. Awesome. I'm looking down because you're on my screen, you're down. So I have to remember to pretend like you're up here. Yeah, good. We had it's a great week. We're going into Chukat and Chukat. I will tell you guys, I would love to do something today is that I'm going to screenshot anybody who makes a comment in the next couple days that have watched this. If you go in there and you make a comment under this video on Facebook, I've got 2 of Halisa Alwine's book, What is the Torah? If you don't have this book, I'm going to send these out. So I'm going to do a drawing for 2 people, but the way you get these is you make a comment underneath this video. So you just say something. I don't care what you say something, but that we know you're there, not a like, not a heart. You actually say something in the comments. And anybody who comments gets their name in. I'll actually put your name in every time you comment. So how about that? Every time you comment, you get an entry. Is that
Nice.
gambling? Is that like a gamble? I don't know.
No, I
I
think
went to
it's
Penn. I grew up Pentecostal, and that was gambling in my church. So I still feel that little like.
they cast lots in the temple.
Thank you. Oh, I feel freedom. That just happened. Whew. Oh my gosh.
Just say.
Well, we're jumping in. We're going to jump in again. We're right in Numbers 19:1. Did you feel like you were kind of jumping into like a Raiders of the Lost Ark or a Indiana Jones movie when you read this?
That's funny.
Did you?
Exactly. Yeah, I like that. I like that. That's funny.
You're
Because
like, what
it
the?
totally, yeah. You
Yeah,
see a lot going on in this portion. There was a lot
there
going
is a
on.
lot. There is a. I think that your mic might need like I can hear a fan or something,
Oh, that might be my,
like air conditioner or
yeah,
something.
the air
Yeah,
conditioner.
okay.
The
I just
air.
don't know if it's the if you're switched over to your headphone set on your
Hold
settings.
on.
Sorry, y'all.
Let me
That was
check.
a technical moment. I don't hear it now, but I don't hear you.
No, it's definitely the
Okay,
air
we're
conditioner.
good. We've had worse. We got it. Yeah, when I was reading through this and we're like snakes, I'm like, not lions and tigers and bears. We're like, there's snakes, there's no water. We're like, what is happening? Does Moses, does he get punished? We have Miriam dying. Like there is a lot
Aaron
happening in
dies.
here.
Yeah.
This is a lot. This is a lot. Do you have anything like just right off the top you want to jump into that you're like, I have to talk about this?
Yeah, but it's kind of later on.
Oh, okay. So
Yeah.
let's just give us like, and I kind of talked about this for those of you, we do live stream the Wednesday Parsha practical portion over here. But I mean, I just have to I feel like it's worth repeating is, can you guys just take a minute? I really want to encourage you that when you are reading these, when you're opening it up and you sit there and read it, take a minute. And the reason I'm explaining this again is because several of you, lots of you ask, gosh, how did you get that? I didn't even get that from that. How did you get that? And here's how. And I mean, Rebecca, I wanted you to share how you do this. I sit in it. That's what I've been doing this year. And I do it different every year. But this year I'm sitting in it and I'm asking, what's happening
Mm-hmm.
as if I'm in the camp? Where am I? What's all around me? What's not around me? Because again, knowing what's not there is as important as what is there. Do you agree?
Mm-hmm.
And it's good. We're going to see
100%.
this later. Yeah. And that's what I'm doing this year is I'm really trying to be present as far as where am I? And it's, I'll have to tell you, it's helping me learn a little better of the history of it. So I'm connecting better. I haven't connected this well with the Parshas as I have this year, because I'm trying to pretend as if I'm reading the travel log and I'm right, how I'm in the travel log. And so it really was like an Indiana Jones or a Raiders of some kind of a movie for me, because I'm in the travel log. So I'm like, where am I? How many years have I been doing this? Like, are we on day one? Are we on 39 years? Like, where am I? What am I wearing? Well, I mean, because that's important, Do I have cute earrings on? That's all I want to know. What color is my lipstick? How do you, how do you, how do you get ready to study this?
Yeah, for me, I would get like, especially if I knew I was having to share, I would get freaked out and I'd be like, I have to be on my game. I have to, I have to know everything. I have to know all the Hebrew. I have to know that. And then God was very merciful. He's like, can you just chill and just read it? Just read the text, what's there, and see what's going on before you go jumping into other things. And for me, that has been key.
Yeah.
That has been key. Just read what's going on and try to get out of, if you can, as much as possible, get out of your 21st century mindset, because it's so completely different than what they were experiencing and what they were seeing. It's so funny. I was watching a video this past week of a couple who said that in 2020 they just decided that they needed to get out of the city and they needed to kind of reconnect. They wanted to get away, and they took their families to they bought some cheap land in Canada and just started a homestead. And they literally still, I still to this day, I think they don't still have yet running water. And then their heating source at one point went out and it was like minus 50 degrees and they're like huddling, trying to figure stuff out and kind of doing everything. But just those few things, I mean, they're literally in the 21st century where we have everything at the blink of an eye, and we can snap our fingers and we have what we want. We have central air, we're not uncomfortable. And
Right.
just taking away those simple things. I mean, I know that a few short time ago when Amazon went down, like that you couldn't do anything, the world practically collapsed because they could not order from Amazon and get their
Well, what
stuff.
about when Facebook went down? That was just
Yeah.
like, we freaked. That's one of the
You know?
reasons we do ask you for your email since that happened. We're like, we have to have a way to get a hold of you because we want to be able to, I mean, we freak out for that. Yeah.
Yeah. So just having those couple little things taken away from us, since that's such a, first world problem, quote unquote, kind of a thing. Imagine what it was like being in the desert at that time. There's no running water, there's no this, there's no that. Put yourself in that mind frame of, I'm one who, I love to read and everything, and I love reading like Little House on the Prairie and all those kind of like historical books and everything, when they were crossing, even just, and seeing them not have water and not have this, and it's like a full-time job just trying to get those basic necessities every single day. Forget about all this other stuff that we do today.
Exactly.
So kind of trying to remove as much of that as possible, and to just kind of focus and say, okay, what's going on? How would I feel in this situation? What would be my mindset? How I'm looking at everything. That changes the whole game. That
Huge.
changes the whole game. And it helps you to understand. It helps you to understand a little bit more their grumbling. Because I know that we want to act like we would
Yeah.
never.
Please.
But
Please. I run out of like my favorite coffee and I'm grumbling, right? I'm like,
Exactly.
yeah. And then we're like, oh my gosh, they're grumbling again. Those Israelites. Nah.
And it's so easy to say that, but I mean, think about it, and it just kind of helps you to set the stage for what you're going to see, what God wants to show you in the midst of all this hot mess.
I want to know who is in a hot place right now, because I know there's a lot of you. We do have women on every single planet. I mean, on every planet. Do we have other planets? So you're listening? Every country, we have women on almost every single continent. I think every continent and almost every country. And so there's maybe several of you who are in winter right now. I know Pietra's in winter. Katrina is in winter down in Australia. Karen is in South Africa, and Pietra's in South Africa. They're in winter right now, so they're freezing. So for those of you who are warm right now, if I told you I want you to go out, turn off your air conditioner, just turn it off. And I want you to talk to me about how bad these Israelites complained and whined. Just turn your air conditioner off just for one day. One day today, turn it off. Tell me how you feel.
I love to watch like home remodeling shows and stuff like that. We were watching one that was vacation rentals, and almost all of them are done on these beautiful, beautiful like places where there's lakes and like forests and all this kind of stuff and everything. And I'm looking at it, I'm like, oh my God, that's so beautiful. I want to be there. But can I be enclosed in a bubble? Because the bugs would just kind of like eat me alive, and I would hate it, and I would be miserable,
And bugs.
Yeah.
My husband did a lot. He was an Army Ranger, and he served most of his time in the Amazon rainforest. He worked with the DEA and did a lot of drug busts for drug camps and things. And so he tells me, you play the games with him, like who's eaten the craziest food, and he wins, because he'll be like, I don't know, poisonous snake. One time I ate a piranha. This one little boy in the jungle, I traded him my knife if he would teach me how to catch piranha. I'm like, shut up. I ate like a chocolate covered cricket one time. Like, really? And you're telling like about poisonous snake. Like, you win, whatever. But bugs. And then he'll be like, oh, let's go to Costa Rica. I'm like, snakes, bugs. We lived out on a Bill and Rosemary Bullock's ranch for a couple years. Randy and I did. We were out there helping them get that going back up again. And while we were out there, there's water snakes. There's a lot of bugs, chiggers. I mean, we're not talking about giant bugs. These are just like the bugs, annoying bugs, right? Fleas, ticks. Ugh.
How about this one? In Costa Rica, they have introduced crocodiles that were not native, and they've introduced them into the rivers. And
thank you.
No, they have gone from the rivers to the ocean now. They have adapted. And so now you go to the beach and you want to get the water, and you could possibly have a crocodile there.
No. I'm already thinking. I heard someone say something. I mean, this is so off topic, but it is on topic. We'll bring this around. I promise. I've heard them talking about we're the only people who will get vulnerable, fully vulnerable, and walk into an ocean that we only know 2% about.
Yep.
And we just walk into it like whatever. Yeah. So think of this is what we're saying. It sounds like silly, but I really take a minute and really think about what's happening here. So what's going on here? First of all, they're going the wrong way. I'm thinking of that movie, Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. You're going the wrong way. And as they're driving, and you guys, they're going the wrong way. Why are they going the wrong way?
just it was a learning process. I'll just say it that way.
How many of you are going the wrong way? He's pointed you and told you where you need to be, and something intimidated you, and it was too hard to walk all the way around. And because for some reason it wasn't easy and you didn't get just to walk through like you wanted to, and you were going to, I mean, we could spend the rest of the time talking about this.
Mm-hmm.
You needed to just walk around, and they're like, well, it's too hard. And so they turn around and they go back another direction because they're intimidated by Edom says, nope, you can't come around. And so then what happens? They go to the next people and go, can we come through? They're like, no. Like, oh, I have to go around. Like, I still got to, he's going to do it. It's going to be no different than when you're reading about we're reading about Balaam or the donkey.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, you're going to, I'm going to, you're pruned if you do and you're pruned if you don't. So you might as well just submit and go the way you're supposed to go. Right.
Yep.
Yeah. I'm speaking of bugs. I got a bug bite on my hand and it's itchy. They are going the wrong direction, and it's because they were probably intimidated. Also, I thought about this as I'm sitting there. If I'm sitting there and we were told no, we can't go through, I'm also seeing something, Rebecca, I've never seen before. I'm seeing people who are free. Okay. I'm seeing free, like they live in their own house. They have farms. Like I'm having just a quick, I'm guess as you're coming up, you're seeing different things, because if I've grown up in the wilderness, I didn't grow up in Egypt. I won't have very many memories in Egypt. Remember, this is the next generation. That's the other thing we need to remember. None of the people are alive now that were under 20. Everyone remember over 20 at that moment is gone. So take a minute and do the math on that. How old are the people who are happening right now? How old are they?
And that for me was the mind-blowing thing this week, because when I'm teaching, I'm constantly talking about the fact of time and how it plays into these stories and into these passages that we're reading, because we read literally, I mean, I saw when you put up the Torah portion, the section where the sister will read it for you, it said 14 minutes of reading a couple of verses, and it literally spanned decades. It spanned lifetimes, because I know I'm going to be 44. For me, 20 seems like a lifetime ago. Like I don't even remember that person because so much has happened since then. So you're talking about a people that are completely in a different space. And sometimes when you're reading this, you forget that the people have changed. And so you're saying, oh my God, they're complaining again. Oh my God, they're complaining again. But you have to remember, or at least this is what I saw this time, it's a different group complaining.
Exactly.
And the way they're complaining is different.
Exactly.
It's different. It's not the same. So you can't just take it as a blanket thing where like, oh my goodness, we're doing this again.
Really?
Are we doing this?
Yeah. Do we really? I mean, do I have to read these big fat whiny babies? You have spoiled baby syndrome. Do I really have to do this? That's a great point. I mean, so I was thinking of the math, or anyone under 20 at the time when they were told this, it would have been just like 1 year in. So we're 39 plus 20. So there is no one older than 59 years old in this group. So I want to ask those of you here who are 59 years or older, do you remember when you were 20? I mean, that's a long time back. And I'm going to be 54. So for me, going back to 20, that's 34 years. 34 years ago. And look they've been 39 years at this point. I'll go at really 40. They're right at 40. They're at 40. So, but we say 39 years because the first year is when they decided the 20. Okay. So, and that's a timeline. That's another thing. Make a little timeline for yourself so you see it. If you're a visual learner and you need to see it, be like, what is happening here? Like, where are they on this timeline in this 40 year? Are they towards the beginning? Are they towards the end? Because sometimes we just read to read. But once you put yourself in it and you actually see like draw a simple little timeline and be like, where are they? Oh my gosh. Once you figured it out that they're actually right there at the edge, they're done. So that means these people aren't very old. I mean, for some of you, 59 may seem very old, but I mean, they've spent the majority of their life now. They're a full adult life wandering in the wilderness. You know how many places I've been in the last 34 years?
Yep.
More than one wilderness. And how much complaining have I done? Yesterday.
And you say, how many places have I been? Both externally and internally.
Yes.
the growth that takes place and the things that you're challenged with at different stages in your life, how you deal with it, and how when you don't deal with it, it shows up again in a different way, which is exactly what happens here.
Exactly. And they've been very busy. They're moving all the time. They're moving off and on. They're doing stops. I think there's like, what is there, 40 stops? I can't remember exactly. I think there's a
Oh,
lot.
really? I
Yeah.
haven't
I
counted.
think
Yeah.
there's like it's like a number. Someone write it on here. How many stops? Oh, Annie. Yay. I just see her coming in. Um, Annie Perez is coming in. Annie's in the house. She's been on vacation. I don't know if she's back. So there's a lot. There's these stops. I think it's 40. Someone tell me there's 40 stops, 42 stops.
42.
Thank you,
Okay.
Linda. 42 stops that they've made. 42 stops. We were talking about my granddaughter who's 6 and different times moving. This is her 6th house and she's 6 years old. And we're like, oh my gosh. But I remember some of you military children, or if things are happening, that's a lot of moving. 42 stops in 40 years. That's a lot. It's a lot of stops. These are the things, I know this doesn't seem like, but this is really practical. This is just really teaching you how to sit in this moment to find out what's really happening here. They're going the wrong way. They're trying to avoid what's happening. They can't get into Edom. They get a glimpse of what they're about to have. They get a glimpse of it's just on the other side of this kingdom of Edom, the Edomites. It's just on the other side. They can almost taste it. They're almost there, and they're told, no, you have to go around. And they're turn around just frustrated. I think that I want you to feel that frustration of you're so close and someone says no.
Can I just tell you that part right there connected with what happens to Moses at the end for me was the kicker. I finally understood it.
Yeah, me
Because
too.
if you just read it, you seem like, man, God, that was kind of harsh.
That's harsh, really?
That, like all that time, and he even stuck up for them when you wanted to get rid of them, and he was like the good leader and kind of he did what he was supposed to do, blah 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 blah. And that's kind of harsh, you know.
Yeah.
Like,
And
man, and if you're a leader, you're like,
exactly.
Hey, you know, it's like, and then I understood why.
Yeah.
And I understood why. And for me, it was because we have this new group of people that have not yet experienced what the older group experienced.
Exactly.
Because when all that was going down, they were all children. They didn't have responsibility. They just kind of, your mom or your dad said, roll up your bedroll, we're moving. And you just kind of did whatever, or you just kind of played games on the back of the ox cart as as they're walking through the desert. You're not paying attention to anything that's happening. They're having to learn to walk, and they're having to learn to stand on their own 2 feet with God. So when God tells them, listen, I need you to do this because this is a teachable moment.
Yeah.
God didn't get upset with them in a sense because they were complaining again because they didn't have water. It's because now this is a new group that's complaining that they don't have water. God, I need to learn how to trust you. It was this whole concept of learning to trust God. And they get to this point and God says, I need for you to do it this way because this is a teachable moment for them to learn to trust me. And Moses doesn't do it.
Exactly. He misses the moment. Out of frustration, he misses a teachable moment. And what that just showed the father is you're not going to be the one who's going to be able to take this new generation into you're not going to be able to do it because Joshua and Caleb have already proved that they can put their emotions aside.
Yep.
In the midst of everyone. I mean, think about it. If you go back, why did he let Joshua and Caleb do it, but he didn't let Moses? Look what Moses got, because Joshua and Caleb proved that in the middle of everyone, when everyone was coming against them, everything was happening, they still stood up and said, we have to trust God. We have to trust him. And we have to understand that it was something that we knew, that they had a skill set, that it was mercy, not a punishment for Moses to say, it's just come home with me. Let's just come home with me. And I'm thinking now, your work is done. And there's many of us, and think about anybody who is going in, they're younger than 59. So if we do the math in our head, then anybody who is, they're 20 or over. So let's say take away 20 off of that. I don't know. Anybody who is 39 or younger doesn't know about this. They didn't go through the Red Sea.
Nope.
The Sea of Reeds. They didn't go through the miracles in Egypt. There's a lot of stuff that they missed. There's a lot of stuff.
And that's why you don't see God complaining back to them like, man, when are you going to trust me? He's like, okay, no.
Like he did before.
Yeah.
That's a good thing to mention. Ask a question. You should have a list of questions. How is this different than the last time?
And I never paid attention to it before. I kind of just read it through. And you have just this mindset of, okay, once again, they're going to complain because they're just a bunch of complainers. And you just kind of, and that's the bad thing about putting a label on someone and not paying attention. You know, there's a
Yes.
reason why people react. And I saw something the other day that I was like, man, and it said, trauma does not show up as a memory. Trauma shows up as a trigger. And I was
That's
like,
good.
boom. And so when we react in a certain way, it's because of something that we've gone through. It's our experience kind of showing through what we're, what we're facing and what we're going through. And so you have to pay attention to what is that, who are the players here, what's going on, why are they acting like that?
What's the trigger?
Yeah, you have to ask those questions. And the trigger is that they haven't experienced it. They don't know.
And they're frustrated. And they're frustrated. And the person that they look to, the only, like, Miriam was like their mother, like the matriarch of everything, and she dies.
Yep.
They're complaining about water, not because they don't have air conditioning or their favorite coffee isn't in the house.
Mm-hmm.
Turn off your water right now and go without water. Are you going to start complaining a little bit and freaking out that you don't have water? Like the one thing you can't live without, water. You can go like what? I mean, I don't know, more than 40 days without food. You can go a long time without food.
Yep.
But you can't go more than 3 days without water, especially in a dry, hot wilderness.
Mm-hmm.
You'll die. It was emergency. It was such an emergency that they didn't even have time to grieve Miriam. It wasn't just like, oh, we're whining. We don't like the food. We want a different food. I would like to have this. It wasn't that at all.
And you have to think about, I mean, we're talking as if we're like just regular adults talking about this, but you have to think about the mother who has a newborn, the small children, anybody who had any kind of issue or whatever. You're thinking, I need water now. This isn't like something, I need it now. This isn't,
Yeah.
So you can understand their frustration. You can understand, and God gives them an opportunity to say, okay, here's a perfect opportunity to prove that you can trust me.
Exactly. And so if we sit in this and you find out how do we make this practical, then I mean, it takes a while. If you just take little bits at a time of this, I mean, we're not going to even try to dive into what are the mysteries of the red calf. Well, join the years and years and hundreds of years, thousands of years of debate about what is the red calf and what's the point of it. And everything that you say is probably right and probably wrong. So I'm not going to even go there. So we're not even going to talk about the red calf. It's there. You should read it. You know about it. So when you read in Hebrews, you're like, oh yeah, I remember. That's over. That's back in Numbers. I remember them talking about the red calf. So you have a point of reference. And if you guys want to jump in and divide that all up, you can join all the sages and the theologians for all the years and
thank you for that.
Knock yourself out. I release you from the red calf. You are released.
But no, for all intents and purposes, I mean, for the practicality of what we're reading here and everything, I think it's like, I'll tell you, I'm not going to go into detail, but God smacked me in the face this week with this whole idea of trusting him.
Mm-hmm.
And I would love to say that I have arrived and that God just speaks and I just walk on the water and, but I'm a little bit more Peter than I would like to admit probably. And, and he just smacked me in the face. And one of the interesting things was, and I'm going to be real honest right here, right now, but one of the interesting things was I taught this week on my show about Elohai Tehilati, which is the God of my praise, and the misconceptions that there is in praise and worship today. And well, things that I think that are misconceptions. And I went all through it and I gave the words that are used for praise in the, the different words that are used. And one of them has to do with just raising your hands. Literally, that's all it is raising your hands and saying, thank you, God. Mm-hmm. Or raising your hands and just saying, I know that was you, kind of a thing. And one of them has to do with getting on your knees and just bringing yourself low. And when something happened that was a pretty big thing, my mom says to me, you need to get on your knees. And I was like, and I hesitated. And I had just thought about it and I hesitated. And I realized that I was like, well, I don't want to be like exaggerated. I don't want to be like, all right, God, thank you, and then, and I had to sit with that for myself because it was a teachable moment for myself. I was confronted with the word. So I just want to encourage you, like when somebody is teaching you something, it kind of comes from back here, has to go through here and go through there. if it's a good teacher, if it's a teacher that really the intention is to teach something, you have to experience it. You have to live it. God has to teach it to you so that you can give it to somebody else, right?
Right, right. You can't
So
serve anything. You cannot teach something you haven't lived. I mean, we just
yeah,
can't. And I feel like you know the difference, right? Because I mean, I'm with you.
yeah.
This week really just showed me just things, some of the things that I realized that when he has said, no, you can't do that, because I realized I don't have the skill set that someone else had, because maybe I look and like, that should have been me.
Mm,
And it's like, well, should it? Because really, that's not what I called you to. And I mean, this wasn't a big shock. Like God wasn't like, well, look at no, it's not like he was a big shock. He knew when the day was going to be and that what was going to happen, that he had the plan. So this is already written out. So the same goes with us. It's like, just trust the story, trust the
mm.
plan. And I was thinking now, if Moses could hear us, if he's close enough to hear us, he's probably giggling, going, you guys, really relax. I'm really good. I didn't want, really, I got to see it. I don't have to deal with it. It was a blessing. I'm going to read. I have a message over here from Linda Millett. She wrote, Moshe failed to sanctify the holy name of Adonai by striking the rock instead of speaking to it and telling it to produce its water. I find it relatively easy to do the same thing when I get caught up in my emotions, opinions, and agendas. That's all that was. That he was frustrated. He was in, can we just talk about this? Miriam died. This is his sister, but it was more than just his sister. This is like, they were like the Trinity. They were like the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit going on here. Like they were like in a
It wasn't
picture.
just Miriam and Aaron. Like
Yeah, he was grieving. Yeah, there's a lot of things happening. And he also probably was thirsty, you know, this miraculous rock that followed them around, which I can't even comprehend. And like I have read that just say it's the same rock that was revealed to Hagar. It followed them. I think that we can get provision in the craziest ways.
yes.
And I am
Amen to
tempted
that.
in ministry. Okay, so we're very vulnerable here, and this is not a topic, Rebecca, and I know because we've had this conversation. We hate to talk about this.
Yes.
And the topic is money. But it's very difficult when you've given your whole life, when both of us have had careers, we both have degrees, we both have the capability of making a lot of money.
Mhm.
And the Father says, I want you to do this and to be dependent on others, be dependent on me, be dependent, period, for your lifestyle. And to ask or to walk that out is humbling.
Mhm.
And also the amount of trust that's required to kind of live on the edge of the spear, right? Everyone's like, oh, I want to do that. Do you? Like, really?
And it's not even just the edge. I mean, I'm talking about the edgy edge.
The point,
like
the point
yes.
of the spear, like that little point on the edge. Sometimes he takes us to that thing and
where you start balancing like this because it's so
and you're like, Father. And then what happens is he shows up crazy, his crazy. And he wanted to show the people this, that all he had to do is speak to the rock. It wasn't anything by might or by power, but just his spirit, right? That's why he reinforces it. This mountain shall be removed. This mountain, we're so busy crawling up these mountains and fighting and battling the demons and getting up the mountain and doing all the, and he's just saying, I didn't even ask you to do it. I just wanted you to speak to it.
Mhm.
He said, you could speak to the mountain and it's going to be removed, because it's not by might and it's not by power. And I don't know who needs to hear that today. If your provision, let's speak to your provision right now. This mountain is going to be removed, and don't quit banging on it with your stick. This might just need you to speak to it and start being grateful and thanking him for how he's going to do it, because he wants to show up in a crazy way. Some of it could be in your marriage. Maybe it's not provision. It's in a relationship. Yes. It's in your children. It's in things. And he's saying, I didn't ask you to do all the things you're doing. Some of you are like so exhausted and this is, he says, I didn't tell you to do all that. You just took all that on your own.
And it's funny because you know how sometimes, like I said, if you don't deal with something, I think 100% it'll come back in a different way later on, right?
Every time.
And God brought back to me a time, a couple years ago, where he told me the words were "be still."
Mm-hmm.
And that was that was like Shabbat on a whole nother level. Because sometimes in Shabbat you get like the best ideas and you want to do, and and God says no, you need to chill out. Just, and for me it was a period, and it was a bit, and he just said, be still, like stop. And I was sitting there twiddling my thumbs, and it was frustrating, and it was frustrating until I realized that it had to do with just trusting him, and he brings you through another level, and as you grow, it's a new level of trusting him. It's not that
Yes.
maybe you didn't learn the lesson before, it's that you're going deeper. So it's not about feeling like bad, like, oh man, I messed up again. No, it's a different level, and he's telling you, all right, you did that much, great, now I'm going to trust you with a little bit more, and I'm going to
Right.
teach you a little bit more, and he takes you in further and further. And that's exactly what we see happening with the people here, because their language changed. Their language changed from the first time that you see them to this time now. It sounds the same, but if you look carefully, the language
Difference.
changed.
The
They're
letters are
going through a
different.
process. They're going through a process, and you have to recognize that and give yourself a little bit of grace and say, okay, and continue to walk.
Right. Right.
That's all he's asking you.
Just keep walking.
Yeah.
I know that sounds easy. It isn't easy.
No.
It's simple, but it's not easy. But it really is that simple. And how many times? I mean, I feel like there's nothing new under the sun. There's nothing new. He just keeps telling us the same story in different ways, and he turns it and he's going to tell you should have hyperlinks going off, and like there's that he's saying my yoke is easy, my yoke is light. I mean, when it gets hard and you're struggling, and if you're in this place where gosh, it's always hard, then it's you. That's pointing all the fingers back at me. I realize it's time to step and say what. So I step back and be like, what is it that I've taken on that's not, and I need to say no. That's the one thing as women, right? We want to please everyone and say the yes, and we have to say no. I just did an interview with someone today coming on our team, and I said, one of the things that's really important to me is that you know your boundaries and you say no. No means more to me than you saying yes. If you say no, I'm at capacity, that makes me, because it's not my job to monitor your boundaries and to know when you're at capacity and what you can and can't do. I barely can do that for myself. So ladies, know your boundaries. It's okay to say no. It's a good answer. No is a perfectly good answer. No, but thanks for asking me. Check in with me next time. It sounds easy. It's simple, but it's not easy when you're used to being a pleaser and trying to make other people happy and saying, yeah, because I'm talking to myself. I had to learn to say no. And that's what's happening. It sounds like this doesn't make sense, but it does. This is a lesson he's trying to teach them. And Moshe, as the leader, didn't teach the lesson. And it wasn't that he was being punished. He's like, yeah, I'm gonna need them to learn this lesson from Joshua and Caleb, because they embody what the strengths and this faith, and they see themselves, they see things differently, and I'm going to need their gifts to be the one that takes them in, and you might hinder the people, so I'm going to just bring you home. Not a punishment, it's just a different thing. So I think we got to get out of that he wasn't being punished. It was just like, yeah, you're not going to be the one. And you remember Joshua and Caleb, he saw them, you had the spies who came in and said, oh, we're grasshoppers, and they were giants, and they were like, no, they didn't compare we talked about this during that Parsha. They didn't compare themselves to the giants. They compared the giants to God. And that's what happened here is you have these people. And if you go in and look in the Hebrew, they say to themselves, they're talking about themselves along with their animals as if they are the cattle as well. In the original Hebrew of it, they're explaining, what are we going to be? We're going to die here with our cattle. They liken themselves to just being as worthless as the cattle, like they're at that level. So they saw themselves as the beasts, right? Instead of they didn't understand how to see themselves, him comparing the situation in reflection of who he is. And God wanted to show that to them.
I think that is exactly the message that we get throughout scripture, and just in our relationship with God, is that God's whole thing is like, I hear this so much, I've said it myself, and I hear it a lot from women who have sincere hearts. I want to know God better. I need to know God better. I want to have a closer relationship. I want to know what he wants from life. I want to know. And as you start to dig in, God doesn't show you so much about himself. He shows you about you, to see where you're not matching up to what he's saying.
Yeah.
It's like, I want to know God. Well, let me tell you, this past week, God showed me, I want you to trust me, but there's still something here that's hanging out that you need to let go of
Mm-hmm.
to be able to do that. And so
Yeah.
as much as you dig in, like with what you're saying here, with what how they saw themselves with the others, they weren't paying attention to God. God was kind of digging out all the stuff that had to come out of them for them to be able to um take hold of the land, take possession of the land. Because with that kind of attitude, they never would have been able to.
They couldn't. That wouldn't have been great. That would have been mean.
Yeah.
To send them in that way. That would have
Because you
given
were
them
setting
way
them
more
up
than,
to fail.
yes. That's why he was like, that's why those 3,000 or those 2,000 died when they tried to go in or whatever. Yeah. Wasn't it? They're trying to go into the land and they're like, yeah, we'll just go anyways. Okay, we'll go after the spy incident. We'll just go in, and they all died because they weren't ready.
Yep.
They didn't understand how to operate in his faith. And this was part of the lesson they were trying to teach him. That's the reason why Moshe couldn't be the one who walked him through the Jordan. It had to be Joshua and Caleb that took him through that.
Mm-hmm.
It had to be because they had to have that experience of seeing the water part the way that
Mm-hmm.
their ancestors, the way that their parents and grandparents had seen. They had
That's
to
true.
have that experience of being born into something. It was a faith. And there's another thing that I was reading that sages were saying that when Adonai was giving Moshe, telling him, here's what I want you to tell the people when you speak to the rock, tell them, and then he has this whole dissertation on what he wants to say.
Mm-hmm.
There were two letters. It's a word, and I mean it's like at. I don't know what the word is in Hebrew. I need to go back and listen to it, but the two letters are Aleph and Tav. And when Moshe is repeating what God said back to the people, he left that out. And if you look at it, I mean, those two, the Aleph and the Tav, it's the first and the last. And I realized what it was is he didn't add that word in there. And God was trying to differentiate and say, this is who I am. Stop comparing yourselves to these beasts. Instead, look at who I am. And that just shows he left out the whole part of getting them to look back upon who he was.
Mm-hmm.
He left that whole part out. It was more than him hitting a rock.
Yeah.
It was about him leaving out a whole part that what he told him to do. He wanted to be glorified and sanctified, and Moshe didn't do that to differentiate them. Yeah. I mean, I do that. I mean, we say, well, we don't leave things out. Yeah, we do. We know what he said to us, and we leave out the part where he says, I am bigger than your problems. I'm bigger than all your circumstances. The thing where he's trying to be glorified and he's trying to be sanctified, we do have his words. We do have what he's told us. But then when we repeat it back to ourselves, whether we just think it, we leave that part out and we see ourselves as the grasshopper. We see ourselves as the beast. We compare our problems to our strengths as opposed to comparing the problem to who he is. I mean, what if we just grab that?
How arrogant.
And in all justification, we're back to this. I mean, he was mourning. This is a very emotional. And I mean, that's the one thing that I've been learning a lot about that. And I'm doing a leadership course that I'm in right now. And the big thing is about leading yourself, and it's about managing your emotions. Not to the point where you don't make your decisions out of your emotions, but you take the back and you really, go through the process of being like, what am I feeling? Is it a trigger? Am I doing this out of a trigger? And then it's triggering a trauma. And now I'm responding from the place of trauma. Or do I sit back and be like, what's the truth here? And you're going through that process. That Moshe didn't take that. He just initiated right out of that, which is an example to us as leaders, whether it's leading yourself, your home, your community, your congregation, your business, whatever you're leading. Women, we can get emotional.
Oh.
And how many bad decisions have you made during your pre-moon syndrome?
I was thinking about that. Yeah.
Yeah. You know what I'm talking about, where you should have just not said anything because something triggered you, and then you got emotional. And then out of that emotional, you forgot who he was. You forgot to point to everyone around you who he is and be an ambassador of who he is. Instead, you took it on yourself and did it on yourself. In the midst, I mean, he was mourning. He was frustrated. He was thirsty. I mean, there's a lot happening with him right now, but it was God's grace. He went straight to the garden, right? He got taken out. And this new generation then gets to rise up in faith. They get to learn a lesson. They get to start seeing themselves as who he is, not seeing themselves, but they seeing who he is. Doesn't matter who they are because they know who he is.
It makes me think about, I always confuse it. I think it was Elijah. I always confuse the two, but when he runs from Jezebel and he just hides in a hole and he's like, I just want to die. Like, this is just too much. And God gives him food and he tells him to take a nap.
Mm-hmm.
So God is very much aware of our needs, and sometimes but that wasn't the lesson here. He understands our needs and he understands what our emotions are, because he understands. He's like, listen, just relax, have something to eat, take a nap, and then we'll discuss it after. Like,
Exactly.
right?
Yeah.
But here it was, I need you to understand who I am for you, who I've been in the past, who I've been showing who I am, but now you need to know it for yourselves. It was about Israel learning to not ride on the coattails of their parents. They're having to stand on their own 2 feet and move forward. And that was it.
Right. So he's like, you didn't learn this with the water, so you have to learn it. So I'm going to teach it to you. So let's allow this next session that starts happening is, oh my gosh, I can't believe he sent all these snakes. Why would God send a bunch of poisonous snakes to these people? Why did he send it? Is that the word? The word is for send, for God to send something is via shlach. That's the word. If you're looking up for God to send something to something is via shlach. The word used here is vayeshalah. Different word, sounds kind of the same. Vayeshlach and vayeshalah. The difference is vayeshalah is the word released.
Yep.
Which is not sent. God did not send poisonous snakes on these people. And I think we're really gonna work on being an hour for you. We're really trying to shorten out that hour and a half on Fridays, but we may go a little longer on this one because I think it's that important. Quick, because I know what time do you got to be? You got to go.
No, it's summertime.
Oh yeah. So we have he didn't. What happened? What happened, Rebecca?
He was holding back, and he said, okay. Yeah. And he no longer provided that protection.
Could you guys remember when I said what has not been happening to them for these last 40 years? What has not happened? One of the things about sitting in the environment is that you look around and being like, what would I be afraid of right now if I was in Israel? I mean, you can speak to this, Rebecca. You were in Israel. You're out in the desert. It is hot.
Yep.
You can relate to the I'm hot. You can relate to if I don't have water, I'm freaking out. What you might not think about is I might be complaining about sand fleas biting me.
Yep.
I might be complaining about scorpions everywhere. I might be afraid about making sure when I put my shoes on. So if you live in the South where I live right now, you have to be careful about a recluse spiders, that you don't just put your foot in a shoe. You don't. Yeah, I see Millie's like going, woot, woot. You don't put, and y'all know, if you are anywhere where there's issues with spider, you don't just put your foot into a shoe. You have to bang on it and shake it because you want to make sure there's not you don't put your foot in there because those spiders like really dark places and they love your shoes. And so you have to make sure, right?
I would live in flip-flops forever.
You gotta make sure, or you have to put them in something that protects them that they can't get into. Okay. So there's a thing we have to think about. What isn't happening here? You know what? I haven't noticed them talk about snakes this whole time. And you know what, Rebecca, are there a lot of snakes in the Israeli desert?
More than their fair share, I'm sure.
Poisonous snakes. They're sleeping. We're not hearing them complain. We have not read one story yet about snakes crawling into their tents.
Yes.
At night because they are loving and they're coming out at night because it's cooler and they're slithering around. We are not hearing about anybody stepping on one when they go out to go to the bathroom. We're not hearing about any of them when they go to the well, to the rock, to get their water out of the rock, about snakes all being, because if you were here in Northwest Arkansas, they would be, if you go even into Israel, they're going to be around where there's water. They're going to go try to find the water. You have not heard it. Did I miss it? Have you heard snakes happening here? None. You haven't heard bugs. You haven't heard pestilence. They have not had any issues with bugs their shoes have been fine. Their clothes have been fine. Clothes. Oh, wait. And they didn't deal with bugs and snakes. Pesty things that were annoying. None of that happened. So what happens is sometimes you just don't know what you don't know. And they are a generation that they had never experienced those things before. So they didn't even know what he was protecting them from because it had been always been that way.
And the fact of the matter was is that they had to start to learn because they're getting to the end of their journey. They don't know it. We know it
No,
now, but
no.
God has to step up the game because they have to be prepared.
It's basic training here. They have to toughen it up. And death, we get so freaked out that some people died. Remember, there's millions of people here, not just so for a couple hundred people to die, they're going on to the next. I mean, it's not like, well, we're like freaking out that they died and this is such a horrible thing. It's like, okay, they were just part of they were used. They took that assignment when their little soul said, I'll take that assignment. And they came down and they said, I'll be the ones who help teach this snake thing. I'll go. I don't want to be that one. I'm really glad that I didn't choose that assignment when I was up there. I'm glad I chose this one. But they are, I'm thinking of your story about your friends that went, or the people you read about that went to Canada. They didn't know that you don't know that you're without, you just take for granted that you flip the switch and the light comes on, that you turn your air conditioning and it comes on. You don't appreciate it until you don't have it. You know, the thing, you don't know what you got until it's gone. I was talking to Pietra earlier this week, and she lives in South Africa, and she was telling me that she only has electricity 9 hours of the day. And Pietra, I know you're watching on Facebook. I saw you over there for a minute. I'm still freaked out by that. I'm like, what do you mean? This is 2022. What do you mean you only have electricity for 9 hours in South Africa? Because she lives in a village in South Africa, and that's all she has. I'm like, well, how do you keep your food cold? Like, I'm still freaking out about this, Pietra. I just want you to know I'm freaking out about this, and you're fine. I'm not okay that you don't have electricity.
It's a common thing for the water to go in Costa Rica, and you be in the middle of a shower and the water just goes and it doesn't come back for maybe minutes, maybe hours, maybe the rest of the day, and people just get accustomed to it. But you're right. We're like in this day and age, and we still have those issues.
Yeah. And they're like, oh, they needed to see how big he was. And remember, they didn't go through the plagues. They wouldn't have remembered it if they were young enough, or they might needed the reminder because they just happened when they were really little, and they needed a reminder because they were young enough and self-consumed enough that they didn't remember. They needed a reminder. But the majority of the people are young enough that a lot of them were just born in the desert, in the wilderness. Yeah. They were born during this time. So they needed to understand the power of a God and who God was. This is all about him giving them faith so that they were strong enough to take the land. And I want to present to you a thought that you might be having some things happening in your life because he released the walls. Imagine these imaginary like plastic walls. I was thinking about these clear plastic walls all around them as they went through the desert, and these snakes just piling up against them, trying to get to them, because they're still there. They didn't just disappear, but they were held back. Like there was like this imaginary barrier around them, and they were held back. And all he did was went and lifted, and then all the snakes went and came in. Like they were there all along. They were just being held back. So are there some things happening in your life? Could you present that to the Father as, have I not been appreciative because I just didn't know that you've been doing this my whole life and I didn't even know what you were protecting me from, and you just maybe released it to teach me to look to you and not take this for granted. Maybe it's your health, maybe it's your finances, maybe it's protection, maybe it's things are happening. I don't know what's happening, but I just want to say, maybe there's a dimension that you could present to him and say, am I being like them?
Wow.
Do I just I don't know you, and I've prayed to know you. So you're like, oh, okay. You want to know me?
All this time they've gotten used to just having everything catered to them, really.
Mm-hmm.
And not even realizing that they were spoiled because God just kind of did it. He just did it because it was a learning time for them to learn to get to know him. And he's like, all right, you're getting to know me. Now we have to put it in a practical situation where I'm not the one taking care of everything. How are you going to deal with it? And how are you going to bring me into the situation?
Right.
Instead of me being there. How are you going to now bring me? You have to choose now to bring me into the situation and see how I deliver you.
Exactly. But I will deliver you. And I'm going to do it in a way that is crazy. Mm-hmm. I'm going to use like a snake on a pole, and we're not going to get into that today, but I'm going to use a snake on a pole unless you have something magical you want to talk about, Rebecca.
No.
I mean, we can go into what it's made of, what that represents, the judgment of the prawns. We can go through what is it, or we can look at doctors use that even to this day. Medical professionals, they use the symbol of a snake up on a pole for healing. I mean, there's a lot of things that have come out of this story that's kind of fun to know now. Then but I know, Rebecca, we want you to hear today is that he didn't punish them. That wasn't a punishment. This was him teaching them a lesson because they had to get this. They have to know this. If they don't get it, and as a good parent, as a good father, he could not send them in. Because how do I know this? How does Rebecca know this? Because we've read Deuteronomy 8. Because we can say, what's the clue? In Deuteronomy 8, we're going to hear Moshe saying, now when you enter the land, there's going to be snakes and there's going to be scorpions. And when it happens, just remember that Adonai is protecting you. Remember your God. He gave you this strength to achieve and to accomplish. These two stories actually go together. He's reminding them, we're going to see this in Deuteronomy. He's telling this new generation who needs to understand. These are fresh young people who need to understand the strength of this. And he's going to mention that the snakes are native to this desert and they're going to be in constant danger. And the only reason that they weren't bothered now is because all along he'd been holding them back. Yeah. I think you need to go to Deuteronomy 8 and spend some time. I think I'm thinking about, and I shared this before when I was teaching this earlier in the week, was that when my husband went to Montana for 10 days, I did not even realize all the work he does until he wasn't here to do it. I mean, I could gripe and complain, but I sure wish he would do this and this. And then when he was gone, I'm thinking, why isn't he griping and complaining that I don't help do? He does a lot of stuff. Because I had all this extra stuff. I had to remember that on Tuesday mornings, I have to make sure I take the garbage out. Oh yeah. And then I have to empty the garbage because magically unicorns and gremlins and fairies don't come in and empty the trash cans. He does it while I'm gone. And he does a lot of stuff like wiping counters down and putting things away and feeding the dogs twice a day and making sure he does a lot of stuff. And I realized how much extra work I had when he was gone because I didn't know until it was gone. And that's one of the things, I mean, for me, that I had to learn was, it was gone.
Can I just say that it really, connecting with what you're saying right now, I kind of feel like the world that we're living in right now is that younger generation that really needs to know who God is. Because they don't. And if they don't learn the lesson, what's coming next, they're not going to be able to deal with it.
I just have to slam my Bible shut on that one. I mean, that is no joke.
The craziness that's going on right now.
I mean, we don't have toilet paper and everyone's freaking out. Look at what's happened with COVID. I believe COVID is our snakes. Mm-hmm. And are we looking up and are we seeing him high and lifted up? Are we looking and turning our eyes on him, the author, the finisher of our faith? Are we looking at him who says, I was wounded. He was wounded for our transgressions. He was bruised for our iniquity. The chastisement for our peace was upon him. And by his stripes we're healed. Are we looking at him for those things? Or are we comparing our abilities and our situations to ours? Are we just in the mess? Or are we going, okay, God, this is happening. So what are you going to do? If you need to use me, let me know. But otherwise, you talked about being still. I heard Marty Solomon on Bema podcast was talking about, I was listening to one of his things about how he goes through and gets close to God. And he was giving different examples. And one of the examples he says is every quarter, the first time he did it was so hard, but he will take all he's allowed is his Bible, his notebook, and a pen. That's all he's allowed to take with him. He will park his car, walk down to the lake and sit on a bench. And he can walk around, but he can't hike and look at, the point is to hear from God. So he just has to sit. And he said the first time it took 8 hours sitting there. And he was like, I can't leave until just to get still. It took him over 6 hours just to get still. And then he took a little lunch, or whatever, just you could fast, not fast, but I want to encourage you. Can you find a way to get still? Kind of hard for moms, taking time away or whatever, but maybe you just ask for someone to help you. I need to go maybe once a year, maybe it's just a once a year thing you can do, but you go somewhere and be alone for a while And I believe that he redeems the time for moms. That's the
Amen.
reason why in the word that we're not required, women weren't required to do all the things in the temple and do all these things. And we've been given time off during certain times of the month because he understood that we had jobs to do that were, when it said that we would, our mind would be, our passion or our mindset would be more towards our husbands. It's just more about the household. He knew that there was a lot we had to do as opposed to just sitting at the gate going, so what did this Parsha say today? You know, so I believe that. So, but in that, think about a way that maybe you can get close to him so you can hear him.
Amen.
Yeah. This is loaded, right? This is a loaded Parsha.
Yeah, it's not just about, cows and snakes and desert times. It's a lot more than that.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Well, y'all, any last words for you, Rebecca? Do we get it all for
No,
you?
just look and see where God is asking you to trust him.
Mhm.
Where pay attention to what you're going through and see the lesson that God is trying to teach you, because it could very well be that you've moved up a level and you're repeating the lesson. It's a refresher course. It's not a punishment, it's a refresher course. Because God's saying, okay, you were able to do this much, I'm taking you to a new place. And can you trust me here?
Mhm. I love that. Thank you for sharing that. And when you said that earlier, it reminded me of being in school and, you learn certain things in high school. And then when you go to, say, if you're going to go to junior college, then you kind of learn the same things, but then they add a little to it. And then when you get your bachelor's degree, you're still kind of learning some basic stuff. It's a little different. And then once you get into you're getting this now, you're in a master's program. Once you're in a master's program, now you're not having to learn like the basic stuff because you've built the foundation of that. You might have a little bit of a refresher, but it's very quick. And then you're going to the next level because you're building on all the things you just learned. And now you're doing practical application. So that's what's happening here is they're having to learn this because they're going to have really boots on the ground, literally practical application for them. And same goes for you. Just stop. If you're hitting a rock, give yourself some grace that it's probably emotional. You're frustrated, you're stressed. There's a trigger, like Rebecca said, the trigger has caused a response. And so that trauma is triggered. So take a step back and stop. And we don't need to hit the rock until we've just taken a minute back. And then like, do you want me to hit the rock or not hit the rock? Do I climb this mountain or do I speak to this mountain? And it doesn't have to
Just
be
want me to
confusing.
stand still.
Or just be still and know that I'm God. Maybe that's
the
it.
game plan here, God. Let me know.
Yeah, and if I don't know, I'm going to be still until I know.
Mhm.
Because I don't know about you, but I'm tired of building the house and laboring in vain. I'm tired of building things and fighting things that weren't my battle. I'm tired of doing things the wrong way.
Just know how important being still is, because being still could disguise itself as the negative of like being lazy or not taking initiative, or all those things that we're taught to be so proactive. And
Mhm.
sometimes the most proactive thing that you can do is nothing. And we have to be comfortable in the nothing until he reveals himself.
Amen. It's like me. We started this out with me telling you I'm interviewing someone. I told someone no is a perfectly good answer. It's perfectly good. It is an answer by not knowing. Being still is your reaction. It's just as important. And we think that, oh, we have to do something. No, not always. So pray you're blessed. There's so much happening. It's hard. I'm so distracted because we have a chat going on over, and you're always welcome. Whoever's listening, always welcome. We are live. You can always jump on Zoom with us and join us live. But in this chat, it's crazy. It's so full right now. And it's so much. I want to read it all. We're going to stop recording. We're going to stop our live. If you are over on Facebook, you're welcome to, you're never too late. We let you in. We do have someone. Thank you, Caitlin, for being our co-host today and letting ladies in. You're not disrupting us if you come in late, because we have someone that they are just here to serve you and love on you and let you in whenever it's convenient for you to pop in. We don't lock the doors when we start, so you can come in. We love you. And I just want to pray that you're blessed. I pray that the Father would just release you of that this portion would not bring condemnation, Father, to any woman who would feel like, what have I missed out on because I did it the wrong way? I hit a rock. But instead, Father, they would see that your grace and that you still have a plan, and you still, it isn't a punishment, that you have a new thing for them, or a new, this is not maybe the thing that they're to do. And then you're going to show them when to be still. You're going to show them when to act. You're going to show them how to be still so they can actually hear you tell them what to do and share with them. So I, Father, ask for a special gifting of shalom this Shabbat, Father, that you enter each home, Father, and they're just flooded with your shalom. They don't feel anxiety from having to get things ready to rest. Thank you, Father. Amen. 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 See you next week.
Yes. Looking forward to it.